Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 30th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Geneva. How you doing, Geneva?
I'm doing great, Taran. How are you?
Doing well. Very excited to talk with you. We are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 22 live feeds. It was day 25 in the house. We had a veto competition. A little bit of talk about what might happen because of it, and also some other stuff. So we're gonna talk about it all, and get through what happened yesterday on the Big Brother 22 live feeds. We started the day with Tyler and Cody. They were waiting for the veto draw. Cody was upstairs listening to music, and Cody was trying to sneak up on him to scare him, but he got caught because the camera zoomed in on him, and he was like, "Ah." That happened.
Yes,
Cody lets
not
him
a
know.
sync.
Yes, Cody lets him know that Enzo is really annoyed at Davon because she was questioning him about putting David up, and because she's concerned about this guy's thing.
Yeah, that was something that is quite interesting. I think they've gotten to a point where, I think they're tired of the girls and they're annoyed with the girls because I feel like there was a lot of talk that afternoon, not only about Davon, but also about Danny too. It's getting to, I guess, a breaking point where they're like, we're keeping you safe. We're winning all these comps. We don't understand why you're complaining. This is Enzo's HOH. He should be able to do what he wants, essentially.
Yes, especially Enzo is saying that it's, "Hey, yo, I won this thing, yo. What's up with this? That's it." Um, they picked players for the veto competition. Tyler has his chip drawn again. He has played in every veto competition this season so far, and he played in almost all of the ones in his original season. He's got some kind of luck with the veto draw. I know that they're joking about it because it's funny to joke about that, like, it's rigged for Tyler. But this is like. I mean, I talk about this all the time. The game is not rigged, but this thing in particular, like, people have dumped the bag out before. They even talked about doing it on the feeds yesterday. It would be the worst way to try to rig the game because it's so easy to find out that it's been rigged by just looking in the bag.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because yesterday I actually tweeted, I was like, do they put maybe 10 chips in there for Tyler or something just to ensure that he gets to play? Because he was mentioning a lot yesterday too that I feel like if people, try to get him out, they're going to have to backdoor him at this point. But that's only if he doesn't get to play in a veto. But then even so, he was also mentioning if someone tries to backdoor him, they're probably not going to get his jury vote. So I thought that was quite interesting. And I think that would be interesting strategy to see if he ends up actually using that and to see if people would be a bit scared to backdoor him and would just be more inclined to put him up. But he's also good at competitions. So he might actually just win the veto anyway.
Yeah, it's funny because the last season he played, he was trying to get people to backdoor him because he had the power to save himself from being backdoored. This
Right.
season, he did mention to Bayleigh, he was like, I'm thinking about using this as a strategy, just telling everybody, hey, if you backdoor me, I'm not gonna vote for you in the end. If you just put me straight up on the block and then you beat me in the veto competition, I'll vote for you. To try and prevent himself from being backdoored because he's like Tyler. I think sometimes can be a little superstitious, and he says a bunch of times like, "Oh my god, I got chosen to play in this veto again. I just know the one time I'm not drawn, I'm gonna get backdoored. I just know it's gonna happen." So he's very scared about this.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely a reasonable concern, just because I think people might not just generally want to put him up because, I think there's that fear he would win the veto because he already automatically tends to go up a lot. So it's like if you actually want to win the game and make a big move and get out Tyler, then it's like the only way to do that is to ensure he doesn't play in veto. But I guess the way things are going, Tyler just automatically always plays at this point. And I wouldn't be surprised, like, even, if it continues to happen where people will just choose him as house guest choice because he's good at competitions. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a valid concern for Tyler just because he is a big threat.
Yeah, I do think you always need to be a little careful about introducing jury vote threats. The second you put that on the table, other people might pick that up. And Tyler, of all people, should be worried about jury votes.
Yes. I think one thing that I tend to think a lot about in Survivor and Big Brother is jury management and the social aspect of, I think, like the social awareness, because I think that is an important aspect of the game. Big Brother is a social game. So, yes, strategy is important, but you have to really think about, I guess, like how you send people out the door, how you treat them in the house. Because I believe, like, when, Bayleigh went out, there was that sort of situation in Big Brother, like the previous season, where basically he was like, I don't really need your vote. And she was just like, okay, well, there you go.
That actually is a myth. That actually never happened.
Oh, yeah. So, well, that myth also can be something that could come into play, because I think a lot of the time, like in a lot of these games, people don't tend to think about like how also people feel about the moves. Because I think also when it comes to treating people in the house, which I think something I've noticed a lot about, and I guess maybe we might touch on this a bit more later in terms of, I guess, the house guests receiving like implicit bias training and what certain house guests are saying about certain house guests with certain terminology that they're using. And I think if that, blends into the game more and people continue to talk about some of these certain things, and then those other house guests hear about them, they may not necessarily want to give them their vote in the end. So I think that, for Tyler, that's something that's really important, because we've seen, at least with Paul, like the way he's treated house guests has resulted in not getting votes or saying certain things.
Yeah. You always got to be careful. Well, Bayleigh and David are also chosen to play in the veto. So Tyler, Bayleigh, David, Enzo, Kaysar, and Kevin will be playing in this veto. Tyler's going to talk with Enzo a bit. Tyler lets Enzo know, he says that he thinks Danny is the one that told Davon about Team Freeze, the guys thing, and that's where this all comes from. And Enzo is just like, that Danny, yo. But he's also frustrated with Davon. He says, but did you see Davon cheering, yo? Like she was cheering for Kaysar. Like, just what's the cheering squad about, yo? Like, what's with that? But Tyler brings it back to Danny. Like, yeah, but I mean, I go back and forth Day or Danny next week, Like, I'm at the point I would just go straight for Danny. And Enzo's like, yeah. Kaysar came up here. He asked me if Danny threw him under the bus. Like, what? What's with that, yo? Why is he asking me about Danny? She's working with everyone, yo. That's it. That's all. She thinks that we're dumb. She thinks that we don't see. She's trying to plant seeds everywhere. And Tyler's like, I've never caught someone trying to be in everyone's ear this much in my entire life. And Enzo's like, I'm almost at the point where like I'm ready to backdoor her this week, yo. And Tyler's like, hey, I'll do it next week. I'm ready to go. Like, I will make this happen. And Enzo says that like nobody else is willing to get Danny out except for them. So next time he wins HOH, or if Tyler wins HOH, we got to make this happen. Danny's got to go, and Davon's got to go as well, says Enzo. That's Danny is firmly on the radar here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think of the last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of things like that Danny would plant, or certain things that she would try to do, and we know that with the vote that just recently happened, that doing that hinky vote probably to pin, on Bay or Day. But the fact that people have caught on and are realizing that she's doing certain things to cause other people to come after each other, especially because she has relationships with almost everybody. People are realizing, oh, this could be a huge threat or detriment to our game if we allow Danny to go further, and we allow Danny to either spread lies or embellish the truth or say these certain things. But yeah, I think it's definitely interesting, because I think it's also in some conversations they were mentioning that, like, we shouldn't make Danny aware that she's doing what she's doing, just allow it to continue to happen. And then I guess, when the opportunity comes, they could potentially backdoor her. And I know Enzo was also saying a lot of hoping that Christmas could also be HOH next week, because they feel like they could get Christmas to do what they want. So that also might potentially, it would be interesting to see if Christmas did become HOH, who she would put up. I know, there's been a lot of talk about Bay and Day, and then also talk about Danny, of course. But I think it's definitely an interesting discussion to see how, completely over they are of Danny and Davon at this point. And just, it seems like the girls in the game, they're like, we're the ones winning the comps. They should just be happy that they're safe. And
yeah, Enzo is big on that one. Hey, these girls gotta win, yo. That's it. Tyler does bring up that he brings up again, like, hey, if I get a power, I'm only telling you and Cody. Tyler is really just trying to Tyler understands the power of knowing where the powers are. And I think he's really trying to make sure that he doesn't get left out of the the knowledge of where the powers go if Cody or Enzo get one. He also, Enzo says that, Danny was up here trying to tell me not to backdoor Ian. Like, you win an HOH. You do it then. You do what you want. I do what I want. It's, you know what? It's making me want to do it more, yo. That's it. Cody joins them. They talk more about Danny. Cody is actually pushing back on Danny a little bit, like, but she is with us at least for now. Like, there are bigger threats. I don't trust her at all, but we don't need to go after her, which is right for Cody because she does trust him a lot and she wants him in the final three. Enzo says that she's trying to get him to go against Davon, and all of that. Tyler says he thinks that he can get David to target Danny for them. Cody's like, whoa, I thought we weren't trusting David with any information anymore. And Tyler's, I don't care anymore. I'll just do it. I don't care. And like, what's gonna happen if I get caught? Like, they don't believe anything David says anyway. Like, I'll just be like, well, why would I say that to David after what he did last time? He's obviously making it up, and nobody will believe him, which is probably true.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's very interesting because I think even later, I know Tyler had, a discussion where basically he's like, yeah, my relationship with David, it is what it is. But I think it's gotten to a point where there are so many relationships in this game that are so interconnected and intermingled that people are afraid to go after each other. So at this point, it's like, let's get the people who are kind of on the outside to do what we want to get done so that we don't have to do and we don't have to get the blood on our hands. And so, I mean, even though I guess there isn't a lot of trust because, I think David definitely did put a huge blemish on Tyler's game and tried to kind of ruin his relationship, with Day. I do think that I think it's definitely smart to not necessarily try to close the door completely, because I think it's good to keep your options open, even though you have that sort of distrust.
Cody talks about Kaysar. He says, like, Kaysar does annoy me in the game, but like at least he plays, unlike David. And he's an incredible person. But like David is such a wild card though. Like, do we really want David in the jury? Maybe Kaysar in the jury is better, but what are we gonna do? Kaysar talks to Bayleigh, and this is a very uncomfortable conversation. We talked about it a little bit last night on the roundtable. Kaysar's doing his usual spiel of like, the people in power, they control the lines of communication, and if we don't do something about it, they're gonna pick us off. And Bayleigh, this is what happened on your season. Tyler is dangerous. He's so good at this game. This is the new school. We need to watch out for this. And Bayleigh is not a fan. As I brought up yesterday, the night before this, that she was already very annoyed with Kaysar, and she is just not having it. She says that, hey, you are being very condescending. This is first of all, this is all happening because of you. You playing in the safety suite caused all of this. You were never a target before then. You did this all to yourself. Don't you dare lecture me about new school. I am a new school player, and I know it better than you do. I've lived through it, so you should be listening to me right now.
Yeah, she's like, you could have come to me or come to us, ask us for advice. I don't like you talking about BB20 and how I played. I don't want to talk about that at all. And I mean, I guess, I think because it did make things difficult that Kaysar and Janelle both played in that safety suite, where I don't think I know that there was, still a chance that it wouldn't work out, but I just feel like both of them shouldn't have played because they would have needed one in a further week. And I think that also put a huge target on them as a duo, because I guess, everyone knows like their previous history. And I think, I do think that Bayleigh's feelings are valid, but I also do think that, Kaysar is speaking some truth in this situation. I do think that, Bayleigh, even though she's friends with people, which I think is something Kaysar brings up, like you may be friends with people, but everybody in this house is basically friends. Like there aren't really too many, like there isn't too much drama there yet. So, I mean, you're going to have to put up your friends, and it's not just friendship. It's these alliances and these bonds, and, Bayleigh and Day and like Kevin, like there are a lot of people who are just like, they may have those connections internally and those friends, but they're probably going to be the first ones that are picked off. I mean, we constantly hear on the feeds that like people want to put like Nicole really wants to get rid of Bayleigh. I mean, she wants to backdoor her specifically, but like those sorts of things. So I think that, Kaysar is making a good point, but I also can understand where Bayleigh's like, you chose to play in this supposed like old school way. You could have come to me, that sort of thing. And then now she feels like there's all this pressure for her to play in the veto for him. But it's also just like, she wants to play her own game, but she also doesn't want to show her cards. So like, even though she is friends with Kaysar, she also doesn't want to like shake up the house. So there's just a lot of complications there.
Yeah, this is as with what usually happens in the Big Brother house with these sorts of things. They're both right and they're both wrong here. Right. She's wrong. He playing in the safety suite did not put a target on his back. The target was already there. She's incorrect about that. Right. She's right that he in part did this to himself. That the way that he played the game did put a bigger target on his back and did prevent him from getting a foothold in the game. She's wrong that that her game is in trouble because of her association with Danielle and Kaysar. Right. That's actually not what's putting her in danger. What's putting her in danger is her relationship with Danny and the comment that she made to Nicole a week ago. Right. And that's something that I want to say she did it to herself because she barely did anything. But like that's not on Kaysar at all. No. But and she's also wrong in the sense that she's not in nearly as good a position as she thinks she is. Kaysar's right that she should be doing something because she is one of the main targets heading into next week.
Absolutely.
But he's also like kind of wrong because he doesn't know how to handle that well, and he doesn't know how to communicate it well. And she's right that, like, you know, she knows better. She does know how to play the new school game better than he does.
Right.
So it is a little bit of like this back and forth of like they're both kind of wrong and they're both kind of right at the same time. Which to me, like, with that in mind, I do wish that she were a little nicer in the response here, because I think that the fact that they are both kind of wrong means that like let's just try and, you know, be kind in a situation where we don't know that we're in the complete right, but she thinks she's in the complete right.
Right. Because then she was just saying, like, you need to fix yourself and focus on you. You know, like, I don't necessarily want you to go, but like, you know, we can't continue to have this same conversation. It's spiraling. And it was just frustrating for her to hear him say, like, oh, I'm a sitting duck and I have no power and all this sorts of stuff. So I think it definitely was a, you know, frustrating conversation for her to hear, like, someone talk about maybe the potential flaws in her game, but also I think it is difficult when she, you know, she hasn't really had an opportunity to win a competition too much, and the same few people are winning these competitions. So, you know, hopefully she does get the chance to win a competition soon. It seems like, even, you know, though we'll talk, I guess, more later who won Veto, it seems like she still did pretty well in this competition based on what people were mentioning on the feeds.
Yes, and Rob is reminding us in the chat that if you can be right or be kind, be kind. Julie, really,
Yes.
you know, we've been making fun of Julie this whole time, but her sayings actually have a lot of relevance to the game, because we saw the same thing happen to Nicole Anthony. She could have chosen to be right or be kind, and she chose neither. Now we're watching Bayleigh make the same choice.
Yep.
So Bayleigh's gonna go to Devon to vent a little bit about Kaysar. She also vents to Tyler a bit, and this is when Tyler says that, you know, the jury vote stuff, and Tyler also says, like, hey, nobody messes with Bayleigh, not on my watch. And she goes to Devon. She's done with Kaysar. She's done with this whole situation. She's so frustrated with him. Bayleigh says that that Enzo is thinking about backdooring Ian, and Devon's like, I don't get why Ian's the person. They went after Janelle because Janelle was saying Danny, Tyler, Cody, but David says Day, Tyler, Cody, and he's free and clear. You know what? If Kaysar wins this veto, I want to go to the 6. I want to tell them, you know what? David told me he was in an all-guys alliance. If that's not true, put him up. Backdoor him.
Yeah. I I mean, I know there haven't been too much conversations that Enzo has had with everybody yet, because I think dynamics have changed based on who won Veto. But I don't know if that's necessarily smart for Devon's game to even potentially suggest that, especially because she is on everyone's radar. I think one complicated thing that we've seen is, you know, she's been a bit, I guess, paranoid in certain situations, or I guess that was the perception. But I think also sometimes in the actual television edit, we see that, you know, Devon feels comfortable with her group. But also, it's like, if you continue to push the HOH to do what you want, then he's going to be like, if you don't have faith in me, then I might as well just put you up as that replacement. So I would be a bit nervous if, you know, Devon actually tried to go through with that, just because, like, if you are so concerned about David, maybe, you know, this could be something that happens in the future. And a lot of people also have distrust in David, and, you know, don't believe what he has to say with a lot of certain things. So I think that, yes, sure, like, you might be worried about him for your game, but I also keep in mind that Ian is a winner. So it's like, I think Ian Backdoor is a valid, replacement
It's
nominee
actually
because
really good for them because Ian is coming after them, and he gives more power to Nicole, who is also coming after
exactly.
them, and
Hmm.
David is not coming after them.
Right. This is also the thing that's very interesting is that the players that are the biggest threats are all the like pre-jury boots or early like jury contestants, and then I guess Kevin. And then everybody else, like the people who've made a lot of people who made it to like final three, final two, who've won, these people are not really considered to be threats. I mean, I guess they are, a lot of them are working together, maybe essentially shielding each other in the game, but it's also kind of like, I don't think a lot of these people like David should be a huge concern right now. Sure, he's not necessarily playing the best game, and a lot of people criticize him for being a rookie and he wants to prove himself, which we see when he talks about the veto. But I just also think that, there are other people I think they can focus on.
Yeah, just Ian going out would be such a good thing for their game. But
Mm-hmm.
so Davon says that's what she'd want to do. Bayleigh is always very funny to me when she's talking with Davon because you can tell that she has so much respect for Davon as a
Mm-hmm.
person. And we've heard from Swaggy on the outside. I've mentioned this a few times. He said that Bailey's goal, and I don't know how much of this is like her actual goal, but like
Right.
that she wants to get Davon to the finals and like get Davon the win essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do feel like there are some times where Bayleigh kind of she kind of just like, okay, whatever you want, Davon. Like she doesn't like
Mm-hmm.
to disagree with Davon.
Right.
And so Bailey's like to the plan of like forcing Enzo's hand and forcing him to put up David. She's kind of like, okay. And Dave's like, what? You don't think it's a good idea? And she's like, I mean, no. I mean, maybe not exactly that, but something's gonna happen. So sure.
Yeah. I think I think it's a thing where, they know that they're, at odds in the house, and I think that they need to work together. I think it's very crucial that they work together. Um, but it's also, I guess, difficult for them to work together, um, especially as two women of color, because they are grouped together constantly in this game. A lot of people will constantly point and be like, well, Bay and Day are obviously together. And there were earlier times, I think, in the game where they would intentionally try not to be physically together, but they are considered like a package deal. And so I think because of that heart to heart that they had, a couple weeks ago, and I guess how, Bayleigh thinks of Day because of what happened when like Bay was in the house. I think that respect translates into the game where she's like, I want to see Davon's success because, also Davon hasn't had that success. But of course, Bayleigh still wants to do well. So I think, I do think that it's genuine. I guess it's just a question of whether we'll see if things change or if there's going to maybe be a potential rift in the relationship, because it is possible to happen depending on what happens. But I think it is great that they are trying to be supportive of each other.
Yes. Davon also says that she heard from Kaysar that David was talking to him and that he said the show needs a villain, someone like the Joker. And Bailey's like, oh my God, that's terrifying. Davon's like, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So she's like in Davon's head now. I think she sees David as like the Joker, like just
Yes.
trying to ruin her game, just being the villain. So we'll see. She brings Kevin up and she talks to Kevin, and she wants to know from Kevin. So in the veto draw, Kevin had house guest choice. He chose David, the Joker, and Davon is not pleased. She's like, why
Mhm.
did you pick David? He's like, oh, yeah, that's so funny. I picked David. She's like, no, seriously, why did you pick David? He's like, oh, well, to decrease Kaysar's odds. I think David would beast it out. She's like, so you're working with David? It's like, no, I'm working with him as much as anyone else. As much as me? No, we have a final two. We have a final two. So how does that impact this? It's like I just picked him for the veto. Like you're my girl, man. I'm final two with you. I don't understand what's going on. She's like, don't you know about David? He was like, what do you mean? She's like, she tells him the whole story about David and everything that happened, saying Cody and Tyler's name, them saying the other thing. She believes Cody and Tyler. She thinks David's trying to screw him over. He's like, do you really think David's coming for you though? And she's like, yes. He's like, okay. It's just a very weird conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I thought it was really funny that Davon was like pretty mad about that pick. I mean, I think at first, like when I heard David was picked, like before this conversation, I was just thinking, he picked him one maybe as like a random option because I think people already underestimate David, so maybe it would just make it easier for Kevin to have a chance to win veto. But I guess it was interesting to hear that it was really to decrease Kaysar's odds in reality, and so then he was like, yeah, it needs to be someone who beasts out. No shade to you, Davon, but yeah, so
Davon was a little offended at that too. She was like, excuse me? It's like, I mean, no offense.
Yeah, but that's also a thing too is a lot of times there is talk about like who wins or doesn't win competitions, and sure, different shows are different, but we do know that Bayleigh and Davon have both done well on the challenge, so I think it is very possible to see them beast it out and do well in a Big Brother comp. It hasn't happened yet, but I also think that they shouldn't be underestimated because they have proven themselves on another show that's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm. So Christmas is going to talk with Enzo, and if you were holding Christmas stock this week, I am sorry, because she decides that she's going to volunteer for the block in the event that Kevin comes down. Hey, don't worry, Enzo. If you need to put me up, that's fine. I can take one for the team. She says that she was talking to Kevin, and she really feels like they can work with him if he stays. So that can be very valuable for us. But yeah, we'll get Kaysar out, and in the event that we need a pawn, I'm your girl.
I mean, I guess it's good in a sense. It's good for Enzo.
Oh, it's great for Enzo
because he doesn't have to worry about putting more blood on his hands, putting up someone that one doesn't want to go up. Worry about putting up someone maybe that could backfire in Kaysar doesn't go home. Although I think initially, like if Kaysar did come off the block, the intention would probably be that whoever was backdoored would go home. But I think in this case, it's perfect because it's like, oh, wow, you're volunteering to be the pawn. Well, that's awesome for me because then I don't have to worry about, do I want to put up Danny? Do I want to put up Davon? Do I want to put up David? Who do I want to put up? That's not really in the equation anymore. It's just like, okay, Christmas, cool, and then people probably won't want to vote out Christmas. A lot of people like Christmas in the house. Also, I later on in the feeds, he mentioned like, people are not going to vote out a girl for the fourth time in a row. So I think that's also, another thing where that's great for Enzo's game.
Yeah. Enzo lets Tyler know about this plan. Tyler's like, I don't like that idea, actually. There's no point in risking that, right? We need her to do our bidding. But the conversation's not going to go too far. Other people are going to join. Bayleigh and Davon are going to talk a little bit more. Bayleigh speaks with David and has a conversation with him. She comes back to Davon about it. She's like, I really don't think David's coming for you, Day. What I'm concerned about is that Ian and Nicole are really close, and they're both close with Danny, and I don't want us to be replaced. I feel like that would be very easy. That could happen. Like, yes, that is the thing. And then Day's like, well, how do you feel about Christmas? And Bayleigh's like, I feel great about Christmas. Christmas would never come for us. And now I'm like, no, that's the wrong one. No, go back to the other one.
It's definitely not true. And, I think one drama that we also saw on the feeds a lot yesterday was talk about, Bayleigh being comfortable. Like that was something that was brought up a lot. Like, why is Bayleigh comfortable? This is a problem because of this conversation she had with Christmas where she told her she was comfortable. And I'm just like, okay, I've gotten to a point where I'm a little kind of perplexed because I'm like, okay, you know, people are complaining when Davon basically essentially is a little paranoid or concerned. Then people are now complaining about Bayleigh, who is comfortable. So it's like, what do you want them to be? You know, and I think it could be good for their games to feel that they are comfortable. Like if Bayleigh is comfortable enough to express she's comfortable to Christmas, then it like then Christmas knows like, oh, I could make this move and she wouldn't expect me coming for her or something like that. Or the same for Nicole. But I don't get why that this is such a huge issue. I mean, yes, maybe, you know, Nicole isn't aware of the dynamics of like of Enzo and, you know, Cody and that closeness, but I still think that it's such a weird thing to, I guess, harp on, because then she kept saying like, should we tell the guys that Bayleigh feels comfortable? So
yeah, so basically, part of this is that that Christmas did have a conversation with Bayleigh. They have had a relationship for a while. That's why Christmas was always very wanting to go after Day ahead of Bayleigh, but then Nicole really got in her ear. But they still have that relationship, and that's why when they talked, they were pretty open with each other, or at least Bayleigh was pretty open with Christmas, and that's why Bayleigh feels so comfortable with Christmas, despite the fact that Christmas is coming for Bayleigh. And so when Bayleigh expressed that she felt comfortable in the house to Christmas, Christmas was like, why would you feel comfortable? I'm literally coming for you right now. I know a bunch of people that are coming for you right now. Why would you feel comfortable? Remember, Christmas doesn't know about the Slick Six. So in her mind, Bayleigh shouldn't feel comfortable. So she brings that to Nicole, and Nicole tells Danny. And of course, Danny is like anything that Bayleigh does to Danny is going to be bad, right? But I think it actually did help Bayleigh with Nicole and with Cody later when she talks to Cody about it. And I think like really the only people that were like really like, why is she comfortable, was Christmas and then Danny, because literally anything Bayleigh does will upset Danny, I think.
Yep. Yeah. Even like that previous day, not, you know, yesterday, but even just like Bayleigh being friends with Janelle. And then there was that discussion about the jacket and saying, oh, she probably stole it. And it's like, why, what is that comment? Why is that remotely necessary? And that's also where sometimes I question this implicit bias training, because I think there is a connotation that people of color will steal things, but I don't see why Bayleigh would need this steal. I think she came from a very well-off family, swaggy, successful. Also, it's just like, you all are complaining constantly about Bayleigh maybe voting to keep Janelle because, you know, they're friends. So it's just like, there are these comments that sometimes are very questionable that, you know, Danny will make, or even Nicole make, that we see, you know, and I think obviously that's to get other people to feel negatively about them. So it's, you know, easier to come for them and that they're not the targets. But I also think that they also shouldn't be coming after the other women in the house. I think we've seen all the like women are going week after week. So then who's going to be next once they get rid of, you know, Bayleigh and Davon, and then, you know, Christmas, like it's going to be Danny and Nicole. I'm sure the boys are going to target them. So that's something that they also need to think about when Bayleigh does express her, you know, I guess sadness or discomfort with another girl going out. Why are you going to go tell the guys, oh, Bayleigh's upset, another girl's going to go out? I think you should be working with the women in the house. So that's also like another just general thing that drives me a little bit crazy about Danny and Nicole personally.
Yeah, they had 2 weeks in quarantine before the show, and apparently none of them really spent any time watching any seasons in that period of time. And also they were busy watching the Umbrella Academy season 2 in quarantine, when they could have been having like 2 weeks worth of this training, or at least watching the show,
Right.
or preferably, I guess, both. But no, they've got to watch some Netflix. What's the new hot show? I haven't had a chance to watch season 2 of The Umbrella Academy because I've been busy watching these people.
Yeah, I feel that.
Kevin wins the veto. They play in the veto competition. It was a very messy thing. They were holding on to things. Kevin was actually saying, like, if they make it a hanging on to something competition, they're trying to screw me because I can't do that. But I don't know exactly what it was, but I think it was hanging in some capacity. And they got very messy. But Kevin ultimately wins the veto, and for the first time in the entire season, somebody not in the power structure has won a competition, as long as you don't count safety suite week 1 when there's 2 people, the only 2 people playing are 2 people not in the power structure. That doesn't count. Kevin actually beat some people like Tyler and Enzo. So I don't know how hard they tried, but he beat them. He won a veto. This is the first step to not being the pawn of the season. I don't think he's quite there yet. But really, like, he was trapped in this pawn situation. The only way to get out of it is to win competitions, to put some respect on your name. Because once you show that you're capable of winning some competitions, people will start to come to you to want to work with you because you now hold power in the game.
Absolutely. And I think Enzo and a couple of the other guys in that, power lines have now made a huge emphasis on, people should win competitions before they try to maybe essentially give their opinion on what should happen in the house. And so now it's come to the point where Kevin, when, obviously he wasn't really the target, but I think it was definitely good for him to win this competition because I think people are now going to take him slightly, more seriously. And I guess this is an opportunity for him to, establish a bond with Enzo. Like Enzo didn't even seem that really mad that Kevin won. Like he seemed pretty happy about it and kept congratulating him and was like, no, like this, don't worry about it. Like you did what you needed to do. You won the veto. I'll figure out what I'm going to do, but who knows who I'm going to put up at this point. Cause I think a lot of his thoughts were if Kaysar won POV, like who would he put up, but not if Kevin won.
Yeah. So Cody and Danny talk briefly. They say whoever gets put up next to Kaysar, we're just going to still send Kaysar home. This doesn't really change anything. Enzo talks with Bayleigh and Cody. He says he's not sure who he's putting up yet, but whoever it is, it's just going to be a pawn. Nicole talks to Cody. They're not sure who's going to go up. They agree that if they win HOH next week, they would put up Kevin and David. So he's not quite escaped that pawn status yet. With an option to backdoor. Nicole says that Danny is telling her that Bayleigh is coming for her, and that's because Nicole has a conversation with Danny prior to this. This is the one we were referring to earlier, where she talked about how Christmas told me that Bay felt comfortable, and Danny was like, oh, that's bad. She's coming for you, Nicole. And Nicole's like, do you really think she's coming for you? Like, she's coming for me? Like, do we really need to, like, Nicole's actually kind of been backing away from targeting Bayleigh, and it's Danny that keeps pushing her back into it. So she tells Cody, Danny is telling you that Bay is coming for me, and Cody's like, she's just trying to get you to go after Bayleigh. That's her game. And Nicole's like, man, I need to stop telling Danny so much. Like, she's really getting in my head. So Danny continuing to lose influence as she tries to continue to pit people against each other.
Yes. And I think that's good though. Like Cody brought that up to Nicole because then Nicole's now can think about, oh, yeah, I shouldn't necessarily come after people just based off of what someone says. It's good to hear from multiple people what's going on. Yes, there've been some issues with, Bayleigh and Nicole, but it's also just like, Danny is trying to get people to target each other. And so she'll say what she needs to say, or will continue to labor on something to make sure that it sticks so that, maybe Danny herself doesn't necessarily have to come for that person. Like Nicole will be the one who is going to go, and she's mentioned a lot now that she really would want to backdoor Bayleigh. So
Yeah, it's we talked about this the other day that like the way that Danny operates, it's almost like she's inoculating people to the actual target, because she does it in such a general way. She tries to get people to go after each other, and we're seeing the results of this where as Danny tries to push people to go after each other, it's actually encouraging them to not go after that person. Because like Nicole thought she wanted to go after Bayleigh, but as Danny keeps pushing, you should go after Bayleigh, Bayleigh's coming for you, Nicole's like, wait a minute, why are you trying to do this to me? What, do I really need to do this anymore? Danny doesn't know how to just let the seeds grow. She's overwatering them, and she doesn't know when to like step back and let it happen. And it's actually counterproductive at this point, I think. So Cody is going to talk with Enzo and Nicole together. Cody suggests even, so what do you think? Throw Ian up, take him out? Nicole's like, hey, I'm okay with him going up. But Enzo says, nah, don't want to do that, yo. That's it. That's all. I don't want to do that. So no Ian. He doesn't want to put up Ian. He also doesn't want to put up David. He talks to Kevin. He congratulates him. He says, "Hey, I'm not putting you up again, yo. That's it. Kaysar's going home. Not putting Dave up either. No way, yo. I just said no instead of yo. And so he's not putting up David. He's not putting up Ian. He does want to make a deal with Kevin in the future. He talks to Bayleigh and Davon. He tells them, hey, I just want to make the house happy this week. Send Kaysar out. And it's not until the end of the night he talks to Cody and Danny, and he finally lets them know Christmas volunteered. And Cody's like, whoa, if she volunteered, then that's it. Easy. Christmas just handed you this insane present wrapped perfectly.
Christmas present.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I think it's perfect. And I mean, I know that Enzo is like, I'm going to talk to Christmas again. I'm going to talk to other people to just make sure that things are okay tomorrow and that everyone's good with that plan. But yeah, I thought it was very interesting how he's like, no, I'm not going to put up David. David, you proved yourself, David. Like you're not the rookie that people think you are, all this sort of stuff. And David kept mentioning on the feeds that he was so close to winning and that sort of stuff. So I guess whatever happened, like I guess he did beast it out like Kevin was talking about. So I guess that is essentially good for David, but also I think that could also paint a target on David's back if David has come close to winning comps even though he hasn't won them yet. But I do think that this is perfect for Enzo, because then Enzo doesn't have to, weigh the option of the potential Davon Danny situation, and then Christmas volunteered, and he was also like, yeah, I'm gonna put up. I'll probably, if I put up Christmas, they're gonna vote out Kaysar because more people like Christmas, and then everyone doesn't like Kaysar, which is kind of unfortunate to hear that because Kaysar seems to be a very nice person. So, like the fact that, all these people are just, I guess, fed up with Kaysar at this point is just sad to watch on the feeds. And especially, that Bayleigh Kaysar conversation wasn't great and hearing her complain about it to other people. So.
Yeah. But that's mostly the night here. I think that Enzo feels very set on this now that like, hey, Christmas volunteered. That's a perfect out for me. Kaysar goes home. That's it. Yo. And so I believe that's what will happen unless Christmas like really like reneges on the deal. She's like, actually, no. That's not what I was saying. But I'm pretty sure she's gonna be down. And that this is it. And Christmas will go up on the block next to Kaysar. Kaysar will go home pre-jury for the fourth time.
Sad. I was hoping he would at least make it to jury. And he was so close. I mean, we still haven't seen the HOH. We'll see how it all actually plays out tonight. But it's so unfortunate to have seen at the end of the live show that he beasted that comp. Everyone was still, working on it. So I'm really intrigued to see, the second half, and then, the third half, or the third part, where essentially, Enzo takes the win.
Yeah. All right. So that's what we have. Anything else that you wanted to bring up, Geneva?
No, I think I touched on some of those thoughts that I had in my mind today. So, but yeah.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you today. I will, of course, be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 22 live feeds. We'll be live tonight as well after the HOH and nomination episode of Big Brother 22. And then, of course, Tuesday night, we'll have the stock watch. We'll rate the players. We'll update the prices. We'll have some fun. So check it all out. You can find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran, or on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong Geneva. Where can people find you?
People can find me at Twitter or Instagram at Peace Love Gen, so like GEN, so like the first half of my name. Tweet a lot about Big Brother and other reality shows, especially Sequester, because I'm very heavily involved in that community. And then also I do a lot of commentary for Podquester Mini over there. So that's where you can find me actively throughout the rest of the BB season.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.